I do.
Yes. Call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order on September 22nd, 2020, 5 p.m. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, item number 2 on the agenda is the funding year 2020-2021 tax commitment. And I'm going to have town manager is going to fill us in on our options for the record and for our information before we make any motions.
Okay. So for those of you who were on the board in the spring, you know that you took the figures in the spring to check out to see where your budget would be and whether or not you would hold the line on taxes. And unfortunately, there was a mistake made in those figures, and the new homestead exemption amount was not back out of our taxable value. And so that dropped our taxable value by $4.5 million. So if the value goes down, the budget stays the same, the mill rate has to go up to make up for that. So that's why you're seeing a mill rate change here. Even though the state will reimburse us for the homestead exemption that comes after we set the tax commitment. And so with all of these scenarios, at least half of the people in town will see a reduction in their tax bill, even though their mill rate goes up because of the homestead exemption. And so I emailed each of you the 4 scenarios that Ellery and I were working on to try to keep us from raising everybody's taxes too much. So the first scenario is what I call the do nothing scenario, which is where we keep things where they are. Now we have been underestimating our state revenue sharing for a couple of years. We've been estimating at $286,000, and we've kept it there for a couple of years, even though we've been getting more than that. I've been a little concerned about revenues all along anyways, with the state situation being what it is. And in March, before the shutdown, we had an estimate of $503,915. In July, they revised it down to $445,805,000, which is a difference of $58,110. Still quite a bit above the 286 that we're at. In looking at the state economy, things aren't quite as bad as they thought they were going to be. Yesterday, they reported the state took in an additional $35 million than what they were expecting to take in. And our state economy has actually rebounded pretty well. Moody's reported a couple of days ago that they thought we were at 93% of where we were pre-COVID. So I'm thinking our state revenues might be a little higher than what we projected at the 286. And so some of these scenarios actually increase that up a little bit. So the first scenario is the do nothing scenario, which is where we keep our revenue sharing at 286. And we do take no money from any place else. And as you can see, the mill rate would rise to $20.27, which is about a 1.8% increase. However, after the homestead exemption, any homes under $250,000, of which there 55% of our homesteads in this town are, would actually see a small decrease in their tax bill. The remaining 45% would either not go up or just go up to 1.8%. If we increase the revenue sharing by $50,000, which I'm very comfortable with doing, that would drop the mill rate, that would raise the mill rate to $20.18, which is about a 1.4% increase. But the homestead amount then increases to anything under $349,000. So those people would see either no increase or an increase. And if we raise it to $75,000, that would put the mill rate at 2012, which is about a 1.1% increase. And that would increase the homestead exemption to properties under $450,000, of which that's approximately 95% of the properties in the town. So at $75,000, most people in the town would either see a small decrease in their tax bill or it would stay the same. Only the most expensive properties would see an increase. The only way to keep your mill rate at 1990 and have nobody see an increase is to take $100,000 from fund balance. And our fund balance isn't really where it should be right now. We're only at $650,000, and we really should be closer to $2 million. So I'm going to kind of recommend against that one, but the other three, and you knew what you want to do, but I don't recommend that we take money out of fund balance, at least not right now. If we have to take it out, we can take it out later in the year. But so those are the four options that we came up with.
So does anyone have a question for Dennis for needing further understanding on any of these options? Kim, you have a question?
Yeah, with the homestead exemption, would that only be for people who had applied for the homestead?
That's correct.
So anybody who's living in town and didn't realize that that was something, any of the people who moved in recently and haven't done that paperwork, it wouldn't
That's
be a
correct.
benefit for them?
That's correct. So they would like to see a small increase in their bills. We're only talking a $5,000 difference here, so it wouldn't be like a huge increase in anybody's bill. Because the homes that changed from 20,000 to 25. So the difference from last year to this year, there should be an increase of 5,000 in their value.
Wait, do people have to do that form every year?
No.
No.
Okay, so,
Just-
but if you had never done the form, it
If you've
would.
never done
Then
it
you've
before.
got it.
Right,
Right.
right. Dennis and Pam, if I could, we as a board, and granted there's new members here, but I feel really passionate about taking the $100,000, and I understand what you're saying. We kind of made a commitment to the town that it was going to be a zero increase, and we said it several times. So that's just that's my position.
I say our question is, one, if, let's say we go with the 50,000 or the 75,000, assuming that comes from the state, what if that doesn't? What happens then?
But then at some point, we either have to come back and look at having to make up the difference in the fund balance if the rest of the revenues stay where they are, or we could possibly be looking at having to make some budget cuts throughout the year if we wanted to offset that.
And then sort of the opposite, if we did the do nothing scenario, but we get 75 grand more from the state, can we then adjust later in the year?
No,
So,
this is a commitment.
So that would then carry over to the next year. So you could use it for the next year.
Okay.
so what we do tonight is going to set what people's tax bills are. So if we do nothing and the revenue comes in, these people are still paying that tax bill for this year.
Okay.
Okay. If we don't take $100,000 out, voting on that tonight, and we need it later, we can vote later
But
to
you can't
use
do the opposite.
$100,000 from that. You didn't, by not using it now doesn't mean you can't come back at the end of the year and vote to use it.
Right, you just can't do the opposite.
Exactly.
Okay.
But that's the only one that keeps everybody from having a tax increase.
I just wanted to say I agree with Jeff. We didn't just say it one time or say maybe. We said it over and over that we would do what it took under, especially this year, to keep the mill rate exactly even. And then I'm thinking that next year, we're really careful when we say things like that, because each year that I've been on the board, it's been the same discussion, and usually Ben is like, I don't understand, we said it would be zero, what happened? But there's always a difference after the calculations and the revenue, so I think we should be careful in the future. But for now, I feel like I support Jeff's idea, we should honor what we promised.
Remember George H.W. Bush.
So I will state that my opinion going into this is that this board can't be held to the promises of a previous year's board. This is a new board, and I am not in favor of taking $100,000 from the undesignated fund balance when it should be more than almost 3 times what it is now. It's a third of where it should be sitting. It's less than a third of where it should be sitting
When you
for
made that,
the health of the town's economy. So I'm not in favor of using them. I'm in favor of letting them go. So Sarah,
when the previous board said that, I guess at what point were you in terms of were you aware that that was a possibility? Like, what
We not only were aware, but we thought it was gonna be more, Sarah,
to take out?
the undesignated fund balance. So this is a really great number. It's not a big, we've taken we've taken $600,000 out of that. So this $100,000 isn't any.
And we talked about this. And you were at the table when we talked about this, Dennis, taking money from the fund balance. And then that's not gonna harm us in any way. I think we'll be fine.
Right.
Kathy, do you have anything to share?
I know we all were wishing and said that, yes, we'd like to keep it at 0. And then the pandemic has altered the course of a lot of things. I mean, you name it, and you could say, well, so I don't think, even as a taxpayer, I would be terribly upset if we took, well, I would be upset if we do take $100,000 from the designated fund balance. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Out of a small pot.
And it's there, and like Pam said, if we need it, we can do it, but to do it right off the bat, I mean, we're early in the game.
But also think about the fact that you are keeping the promise for what, at least half? So on the do nothing, you said at least half are going down?
Of homesteaders.
Well,
Right.
If they had done that paper.
Right, but I mean, that's one thing, we should get the word out to tell people to fill out that form, you know? But I think one thing you need to keep in mind is that for each of these options, there's still a lot of people who are either seeing no increase or going down. So it's not like you're actually raising taxes on 100%.
I just have an issue with pushing that mill rate over 20. I would really like to keep it under 20 because it goes up every year.
Yep.
And there's no reason to do that. We're already a quarter of the way into this year. And I would say because of the pandemic and uncertain financial situations, that's more reason to do it. And if you're uncomfortable with taking 100,000 from fund balance, then take 75 from fund balance and put 100,000 on the revenue. Because the revenue we're working with is still over $100,000 less than what the state has promised. And again, we're already a quarter of the way into the year.
It's not promised, it's an estimate.
Correct.
And so I still remain concerned that state revenues are not going to keep up with their projections.
The other thing is, this isn't a town that has no reserves. If there was some sort of emergency and we're like, oh my God, the bridge fell into the river and we have to build a new one because the state is putting it on us or something horrendous, we do have reserves. So I don't know. I've also sat on this board many times when we just took a lot more than that from the fund balance. And it's always been okay.
So, Dennis, how low did you go with your conservative number on how much you thought the revenue sharing would be this year?
I'm comfortable with the 75,000 that we would get into that. So the 286 plus whatever 75 is was what, 350-ish. I'm comfortable with that. So either one of 3 or 4, we can make it work.
You know, as
I'd be
we,
comfortable with that. I would be comfortable with that, increasing the revenue sharing to 75,000 and having the mill rate go to 20.12. I think it would be, to me, it feels like a safe thing to do, and the $100,000 is there if you need it at the end of the day. I don't see any need to pull it now.
do you not see value in keeping the mill rate under 20?
I think
You get a psychological barrier to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a lot of
And
people.
it means a lot to a lot of people too.
It does, and as the towns around us push up over 20, and people from all over the state and country are looking to move to Maine,
As far
that's
as
just one more
businesses,
little
too.
thing. I think it's important, and it doesn't cost us anything, and there's no great risk.
Correct.
And us taking that 100,000,
We look like we look better than Damascotta. We
Yeah.
look better than that.
Let's one person talk at a time and not discuss just two of us. We need to all be included in the discussion and taking our turns at it. So, yes, Sarah.
I just feel like also that we shouldn't keep assuming that it has to keep going up. Like, I guess I would like to see us not go all the way in one direction, meaning the 100,000 and assume we're getting the 75. Understanding that if we do better in terms of the state and then we have a surplus at the end of the year, then next year we're looking really good and we can bring the mill rate back down. I think
That's true.
that's one of the things I feel like I run into talking to people is that they assume there's never any going down. It's just a constant trend line up. And I think we can stop that if we're responsible for that.
Mhm. Yes, Kim.
So the state's estimate as of July was 443,
As of August.
As of August.
445, 805,
and our estimate going into it was 280.
286.
So what's the difference, like 150? And you're proposing that we increase that by just half, by 75,000?
You still have some wiggle room there.
Yeah.
If they stay with what they said they're going to.
So if we could reduce the amount that we take from the fund balance, but increase that revenue, would you be comfortable with that? So that we could keep our mill rate under 20, and so that we could deliver on what 3 members of this board sitting here currently did promise?
I have to talk to Ellery, have them.
It's 6 of one, half dozen of another, because as you said, if we need it later, the funds will be there.
We didn't prepare our paperwork for tonight.
Right,
so-
we have these 4 scenarios with the paperwork ready to be signed tonight. So we need to really set a tax commitment and so that tax bills can go out so that the town can start receiving revenues.
Can I make a motion to start discussion?
Well, okay, so this is how meetings work. When it's on the agenda, you don't need a motion to discuss. It's on the agenda, it's open for discussion.
Then I'll make a motion to take $100,000 out of reserve, out of undesignated fund balance.
And increase the revenue.
An increased revenue by 75.
Correct.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to increase revenue sharing by 75,000 and take $100,000 from undesignated fund balance. Any questions, any comments? Calling for a vote, all in favor? 2, all opposed? 3, motion fails.
I'll make a motion that we increase revenue sharing by 75,000 without taking anything from the undesignated fund.
Second that.
Okay, so now there's Sarah. And, oh my God, I'm gonna blank on your name, Kathy.
It's all right. I'm blank over my name
What
too.
is it? Okay, it's been moved by Sarah that we take $75,000, increase the revenue sharing estimate by $75,000 and take nothing from undesignated fund balance. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? 3, opposed? 2, motion carries. Democracy next.
Motion to adjourn?
We don't need to be in meeting to sign, right? Okay. Motion to adjourn by Kim, seconded by Kathy. Call for a vote, all in favor? 5-0. Motion carries. And it is.
Thank you. It is very exciting, although it's kind of sad.
Like 5 places.
Sad.
That's not moving up there.
No, but it's
So you're gonna be trying to refuse put everything?
I am, it's
That's
totally
a
worth it.
hike.
I know, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you're gonna love the job?
It's an hour and 20. It's fine.
It is.
Yeah, it is, it's a hike.
It's a hike, but it's a beautiful.
That's right.
Yeah. administrator. So now next time, you know, something opens up in Blueberry
Take the
or
long
Bath.
view, that's good.
That's it, I need to think like 2, 3 years down the road, this is
Oh, you have to,
good
yeah.
for my family.
Oh, yeah, it's good for your resident.
Within an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
But again, it's what you took your education to do.
I did, and I applied for many jobs, and I kind of, when school started, I was resigned to just, you know, putting the whole thing off for a year, but then this opportunity came up really quickly. I actually got the offer on Thursday in the parking lot at the community center, and then we had to come in and do that special town vote.
You already signed the other warrants, right?
Congratulations, you'll be fine.
Thank you very much.
All right, I see 4.
We get to sign something before.
I see 4 places to sign.
Did I hear you say you did a very good job?
I got a new job.
Were you working?
I've had so many figures run through my head.
Searsport Middle High School.
Searsport.
Yeah.
You're not gonna move.
No, I'm not gonna move, I'm just gonna drive.
That's kind of like I drove for a year and a half, an hour and a half.
An hour and a half, I mean,
Each way.
it's a good opportunity.
I like to, that's my cup. Hour and a half. I actually miss my drive.
That's what my husband said when he worked at Colby. He
You know
said it was
what?
the best part of his day.
You know,
was
that's
that
my
drive.
notes. A lot of people listen to audio books.
Just 2?
So good, right?
I don't listen to any meditation.
No, don't listen to it. But you still have electric. Yes, you can download Cloud Library.
Yes.
Free audio books.
Yeah, I used to have, it wasn't called Cloud,
It was Overdrive.
yeah, I had
Yeah,
that
we
as
don't,
well.
yeah, we don't use that in Wisconsin anymore. Most of the states changed over to Cloud Library.
Well, then I'm gonna need to do that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna borrow your pen, is that okay?
You get $12
Yes.
million in
Yes.
reserve.
All right.
There was like
Thank you,
4
everybody.
places.
That was a good meeting. It was a good meeting, good discussion. I'm really,
Oh, there's a few more on that.
really.
Oh, I think it's
See you
right.
raising
Oh,
your
yeah.
hand.
It was a very good meeting.
Now, why, I wasn't reading.
I have a totally unrelated question. So the solar project that's in the planning board right now, the one out on Jones Road, they are asking what